Hi, welcome back to Framations. I'm Amy Wilson, owner of Framations Art Gallery, and I am proud to introduce to you our latest exhibition called Advocate for the Animals. It's an art and awareness exhibit that benefits the Missouri Alliance for Animal Legislation, one of my favorite nonprofits. I've been a longtime supporter of the Alliance, and if you are interested in how you can make a difference in the lives of animals here locally in our state, you should visit maal.org. While giraffes are not found in the wild in Missouri, their majestic beauty and stature is a reminder to us of the importance of all animals living here. Whether it be a dog, cat, bird, rabbit, pig, cow, or any other animal, wild, captive, or pet, we humans have a responsibility for the humane welfare of them all. The soulful, trusting, hopeful eyes of my giraffe are begging us, reminding each of us of our responsibility. Did you know? In 1998, the Missouri Alliance for Animal Legislation played a leading role in the successful ballot initiative campaign for the passage of Proposition A, which banned cockfighting, bear baiting, and other fighting baiting ventures in Missouri. This legislation also provided for the enactment of felony penalties for dog fighting.
Oh, back when I was in junior high, my dad came home with this cardboard box with some of his red shop towels in it, and in it was this black lump that would kind of move once in a while. Couldn't tell what it was. And what it was a dog that he had brought home from an auction he had been at. And when we watched him, the fleas just started abandoning ship. And that he was just so encrusted with so many fleas that you couldn't, his fur was just matted solid. When we cleaned him up, he looked like that when your dad brought him home. When we cleaned him up, he looked, in a couple of months, he was all healthy and looked like that. I'm so proud of my dad for bringing him home, and not walking by and leaving. He looks like a husky, and he acted like a husky, but he didn't have the typical blue eyes, so obviously he was a mix of something. But he loved the snow. We would hook him to our wood sled, and he'd pull my sister round and round Dad's property until Dad would finally say that's enough. And we named him Rags because he came in the box of rags. How Dad brought him home, and then his coloring reminded us of rags, so that became his name. And I hope that you someday have the good fortune to rescue an animal, whether it's a dog or a cat or whatever, a turtle, and they'll bless your lives as Rags did ours.
Did you know? Approximately 6.3 million companion animals enter the U.S. animal shelters nationwide every year. Each year, approximately 920,000 shelter animals are euthanized. The number of dogs and cats euthanized in U.S. shelters annually has declined from approximately 2.6 million in 2011. This decline can partially be explained by an increase in the percentage of animals adopted and an increase in the number of strays successfully returned to their owners. Make a difference. Adopt. Don't shop. 2022 Missouri legislation, House Bills 2446 and Senate Bills 979 and 980 were supported by the Missouri Alliance for Animal Legislation but failed in session. I encourage you to go to maal.org and read through the proposed legislation referenced above to learn about inhumane practices that are being taught at the University of Missouri Colleges of Veterinary Medicine. The plastic pieces used in this artwork are tops from medication vials, leading to the title Indispensable. While this artwork shows a dog, we have many animals in our lives that we consider to be necessary, needed, vital, important, to take from synonyms of the word indispensable. How we see or keep animals, how they serve or protect us is endless. As a child, we all wanted a hamster, a pony, a puppy, or a kitten, a parakeet, a goldfish, or a bunny. We find reasons to have animals in our lives. The barn cat to catch mice, ducks, and geese to have at the farm pond, a service dog to help with a disability, a horse for weekend rides, as well as those animals that provide food to us. We take classes to learn to build a birdhouse, a squirrel feeder, or an insect habitat. Social media is filled with photos showing the excitement of a deer or bear in the backyard, or the fear and surprise of a snake on the hiking trail. We're excited to see the hummingbirds and butterflies searching for food in our backyards, to hear the peepers in the spring, and guess how far away the owl or coyotes are from us when we hear them at night. Animals are indispensable to humans in more ways than I can summarize in this statement. Did you know? In 2022, Missouri politicians voted against passing bills to provide transparency and accountability for the use of animals in research.
Hi, I'm Cindy Wiltse. This is my piece, Gentle Giant. As a girl, I took a photograph of a zoo in Wichita, Kansas, and as soon as I saw the theme of the art show, I immediately thought of the gorilla. I know the gorillas are an endangered species. They've been hunted. Their land is disappearing with all the people building, and so I just knew I had to draw him. And he's done with colored pencil. It's about 8.5 by 11 in size, and I just loved his expression of how he was looking at me over his shoulder. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Did you know? State or local governments can regulate the trade and care of exotic pets in their jurisdiction. Did you know it's easier to buy an exotic animal than a car in the state of Missouri? Missouri is home to the largest auction and sale of exotic animals in the country. The Missouri Alliance for Animal Legislation successfully lobbied to pass the Large Carnivore Act, which regulates the care of large cats and bears in captivity. Zakai is a high-content wolf dog who was rescued from a private breeder. He had been living in unsavory conditions, isolated and fearful. Wolf dogs are high-energy pack animals. This young dog was very frightened and not socialized. He was rescued by a wolf sanctuary in northern Colorado and is now well socialized. Zakai lives with many other rescued wolf dogs now in an all-natural habitat. He's a happy camper. Did you know? So many of our caring citizens are involved in the rescue of neglected and abused animals all across the state of Missouri. But until strong and humane laws are in place, the cycle of neglect and abuse will only continue. The Missouri Alliance for Animal Legislation is working around the clock to stop abuse and neglect before it starts. My artwork is about cats. I am worried about cats that get hurt outside. I want people to take care of outside cats. I want people to feel sad when they see a hurt cat. I want them to think about taking care of cats. I learned that people can help cats by giving them food and water. Did you know? Many times in homes where there is violence, pets become pawns of the abusers. 71% of pet owners entering domestic violence shelters report that their batterer had threatened, injured, or killed family pets. These acts of cruelty are carried out by the abuser to keep the human victim under their control. Thankfully, now Missourians seeking protection from violence can have their pets included on orders of protection. This will save countless human and animal lives.
My name is Cynthia Reyes, and I entered the show, and this is the meaning of touch. I couldn't help but take this picture and focus on the lioness's tail, on the lion's paw, because to me it spoke about emotion. And I do believe that animals do have emotions and feelings. The lions are in a safe, controlled environment, a zoo. However, the zoo can't give an animal its true natural habitat, hence the added fences and the small roaming areas. But luckily, the lions are protected from abuse that might come from someone who keeps the species as a pet or for show. The animal welfare laws, and specifically the Missouri provisions of the Large Carnivore Act, advocate not only for the safety of the animal, but also the community. The act requires those who want to possess a large carnivore to register, show how the animal will live, and require a veterinarian to sign for the care of the animal. In a nutshell, don't possess a large carnivore. Visit one at a zoo where it can get proper care and not hurt anyone because of negligence.
Did you know? In 2010, through its lobbying efforts, the Missouri Alliance for Animal Legislation helped establish the Large Carnivore Act, which requires the humane treatment of large cats such as lions and tigers and even bears. It also provides protection for the public and creates a comprehensive set of standards for owning large carnivores. The legislation was in response to Missouri's status as home to the largest auction of exotic animals in the country. I made fish in clean water. The swirls represent the flow of water. I want people who view my art to feel happy because the fish are healthy and in clean water. Did you know? Concentrated Animal Feeding Operations, or CAFOs, are large-scale animal feeding operations that house heavy concentrations of livestock, including hogs, poultry, and cattle. Missouri has 106,000 farm operations, about 500 of which are Class 1 CAFOs, with 1,000 to 7,000 animal units. These large-scale feeding operations have significant environmental and public health consequences. This is not merely a rural issue, but one that affects all Missourians. Toxic emissions of nutrients, fertilizers, and pathogens from corporate agribusiness find their way into countless local rivers, streams, and lakes, jeopardizing our drinking water, river quality, and wildlife.
Hello, my name is Joyce Rothermich, and I would like to introduce you to Betty White. One of the things that I wanted to emphasize in this show was that Missouri has more puppy mills and is pretty well the worst in the country as far as the amount of puppy mills that are in this state. So I wanted to emphasize more on what you should do in order to get a puppy. Besides going to a shelter and adopting one of those dogs, you have to make sure you have a reputable breeder. So my daughter adopted Betty White about a year ago, actually, and she went through a long process in order to get this puppy. She did a lot of research. She made a lot of phone calls. She checked references. She actually visited the home where Betty White was bred. She was not able to pick up the dog right away because, again, the owner wanted to make sure that Betty had a good start and had her veterinarian visits and things like that. Like I said, Missouri has one of the worst puppy mills, and these puppy mills are failing to protect our young dogs, and the cruelty that has been found in these puppy mills are just kind of unbelievable, as far as being kept in cages. The mothers are just made to produce one litter after another. They're not provided nutritious meals, and they live in very filthy conditions. So I always say that the 3 dogs that I have on display are the lucky ones.
Did you know? In November of 2010, Missouri voters passed the Puppy Mill Cruelty Prevention Act by ballot initiative. In 2011, there were 10 bills on day one of the legislative session to completely overturn and/or gut the Puppy Mill Cruelty Prevention Act. If it were not for the work of the Missouri Alliance for Animal Legislation and citizen animal welfare advocates, the will of the voters would have been completely overturned. Most of the provisions in the Puppy Mill Cruelty Prevention Act were salvaged through the compromise bill, the Canine Cruelty Prevention Act. Polar bears are at risk because of expected habitat loss caused by climate change. The polar bear is classified as a vulnerable species. This polar bear is a star at the St. Louis Zoo and well cared for.
The substance matter of my art, the old cat in the shelter. This cat been in the shelter for 15 years. I think doctors should go. Doctors, older cats. It's fair for a doctor family. Older cats is lonely and sad. I want people to think that's so sad. You okay, kitty cat? I think about adopting your own cat. I learned about shelters that protect older cats.
Did you know? In the United States, 56% of dogs and 71% of cats that enter animal shelters are euthanized. More cats are euthanized than dogs because they are likely to enter a shelter without any owner identification. 2022 Missouri legislation, House Bill 2237, was supported by the Missouri Alliance for Animal Legislation but failed in session. Yuri was adopted from Dent County Animal Welfare Society in Salem, Missouri in March 2020 during the push for pet adoptions through the early months of COVID. He found himself at the shelter with a family who no longer wanted him. He is said to be a red-nosed pit bull husky mix. With 2 years of his life under our belt, he brings new joys and challenges with each day. House Bill 2237 would have provided a tax credit to a person adopting an animal from a shelter or rescue. I always encourage friends and family looking for a pet to consider the many shelters and rescues that are available. Did you know? In 2022, Missouri legislators voted against a bill to provide a tax credit to a person adopting an animal from a shelter or rescue. My piece reminds me of when I go to the World Bird Sanctuary on outings at Fine Line Studios. I want the viewers of my collage to think of the animals and to like them. If you didn't have animals anywhere in a world, it would be a sad world. I like all kinds of animals from all around the world. It makes me think of their differences. The elephant doesn't eat the same as the other animals, and you have to show respect because they could be dangerous as well. Did you know? In 2022, the Missouri Alliance for Animal Legislation was able to thwart the many bills that would have weakened our animal protection laws this session.
For several years, my husband and I spend our winters down in Texas on the coast. And we learned from our friends that we've met down there the problem with turtles. The sea turtles come in, and when they have a cold spell come through, they get what they call cold shock. And they're in danger of losing their lives. So people will walk the beaches and rescue the turtles and take them to a safe place, sanctuary, until the weather improves and they're able to release them back into the wild. But we humans are insatiable in our need to have things and then just leaving them behind. So you'll find that a lot of times we'll get wrapped up in plastic pieces, plastic bags, ropes, whatever, and those could also endanger the animals, whether they're the turtles or the coyotes or any of the wild animals that you find out. And not only in Texas, but right here in Missouri also, that we have those. And would hope that you would take responsibility for your items and pick your trash up and take it so the animals don't get consume them or get tangled up in them and endanger their lives.
Did you know? When animals ingest plastic waste, it can block their digestive tracts, and as a result, they starve. Toxic chemicals in plastic can harm animals' health, and people can ingest these chemicals as they make their way up the food chain. Declawing is inhumane. It is done solely for the convenience of humans, simply to prevent torn furniture and scratched skin. The fur babies are begging, please, humans, stop the declaw. It hurts. It's dangerous for us. Love your fur baby. Did you know? Declawing is a surgical amputation of the last toe bone, the human equivalent to losing the tip of your finger from the last knuckle bone. In 2022, the Alliance defeated legislation introduced to overturn the ordinances recently enacted in the city of St. Louis and St. Louis County that prohibit veterinarians from declawing cats.
The farmer and the chicken are brought on a farm, right? The farmer, the chicken, and egg, the egg, the food and egg, and the chickens, and the hen house for hers. And if the chicken don't stop get the chickens. Alright? Please.
Did you know? In 2001, the Missouri Alliance for Animal Legislation lobbied to amend animal abuse laws to include all animals, not just mammals. This restored protection to chickens and other birds that were previously excluded from the statutes protecting animals. Changes in the habitat of residential and farmland areas are a threat to many butterflies and small birds like hummingbirds. Along with pesticides, pollution can endanger the lives of these beautiful creatures. We must be aware of the many dangers and fight to protect these living things, as well as many pets which face abuse, overcrowding, and neglect. Did you know? Every living thing in an ecosystem plays an important role. Tree roots absorb water, prevent erosion, and filter pollutants. The leaves of plants remove pollutants from the air, create oxygen, and convert sunlight into sugars, the basis of all food. Bees, butterflies, and other insects, as well as birds and bats, pollinate our food and other plants. Fungi, beetles, and bacteria break down dead leaves and dead trees into soil. Worms and moles aerate the soil. Snakes and owls eat rats and mice. Vultures, possums, and other scavengers keep our environment clean by eating dead animals, which keeps diseases from spreading and aids in limiting fly reproduction. And the list goes on and on and on.
Hi, my name is Joyce Rothermich, and when I heard that they were going to have a show focusing on animal advocates, the first thing that came to mind was the puppy mills in Missouri. Thor, like I said, was from a reputable breeder. They are not kept in crowded spaces or cages. They are bred sparingly. They will have they will show that they have had veterinarian care and that they've had their shots. You actually have to sign a contract in order to purchase the dog. Many times you can tell too if it is coming from a reputable breeder because they say that you may return the dog. It's almost like adopting a baby, only a little bit less paperwork. But anyway, it's very important that you know the breeder that you're getting the dog from.
Did you know? Purebred dogs often need rescuing too. Breed-specific rescue groups are made up of dedicated volunteers who house, care for, and carefully place purebreds in new, hopefully permanent homes. For prospective dog owners who are interested in a particular breed, this type of rescue group provides an alternative to breeders or pet shops. An important plus is that these rescue organizations do not contribute to the companion overpopulation problem. How can you help keep me healthy? You can do your part by being responsible with your plastic. Research shows that myself and all the big fish friends and one little cell friends contain plastic of some amount. When everyone does their small part, it will make a huge difference. Help promote clean water regulations. Did you know? The Great Pacific Garbage Patch covers an estimated surface area of 1.6 million square kilometers, an area twice the size of Texas or 3 times the size of France. The subject matter of my artwork is farmed shrimp. Too many farmed shrimps can hurt other fish in the water, and the shrimps get sick from head to toe from too much medicine. I want people to feel sad and sorry for the shrimps. I want them to think more about big fat shrimps. I learned about how much I love shrimp, and I love them to death, and I don't want them to get sick.
This picture is called Paws at Peace. This is Shenzi, a recently adopted animal from the St. Charles County Pet Adoption Center. As best as the facility can be, a forever home creates a total sense of relaxation for Shenzi. And this is total relaxation for Shenzi. She's usually on the run, and she's just so comfortable being in a home instead of at the adoption facility. The Missouri Animal Welfare Act, and specifically the Animal Care Facilities Act, has regulated that she be taken care of in an appropriate place, and her basic needs are to be taken care of prior to adoption.
Did you know? In 1992, the Missouri Alliance for Animal Legislation played a leading role in the passage of the Animal Care Facilities Act, which requires the licensing, inspection, and standards of care for dogs and cats housed in commercial pet breeding facilities, pet stores, kennels, and animal shelters. Help the pollinators to pollinate. Join the No Mow May initiative. What is this, you ask? It is creating habitat and forage for early season pollinators like these bees and butterflies. The aim is to let flowers bloom and provide nectar. It is needed to reverse the sharp decline in pollinating insects. Did you know? In North America, a quarter of our native bee species are at risk of extinction. That's not good for bees, and it isn't good for us. Bees pollinate 35% of our global food supply, and many of the wild plants our ecosystems depend on. Simply put, a world without bees would be a shadow of its former ecological self. This is my family pet Yuri, adopted from Dent County Animal Welfare Society in Salem, Missouri in March 2020. He found himself at the shelter with a family who no longer wanted him. He is said to be a red-nosed pit bull husky mix. With 2 years of life with Yuri under our belt, he brings new joys and challenges with each day. People's reaction to Yuri always surrounds his pale blue eyes and not his bully breed appearance. Most often we hear, "Those eyes." There are some that admit that the eyes freak them out, but usually we hear that he is a beautiful dog. We would not be able to give Yuri a home if we lived within an area covered by breed-specific legislation. He is a loving dog. While little critters catch his attention, he still knows house cats rule the roost, and I always encourage friends and family looking for a pet to consider the many shelters and rescues that are available. There are always stray and unwanted animals hoping to find love in a family, not to spend years in a shelter or end their precious lives by euthanasia. Did you know? In 2022, House Bills 1588 and 1657 and Senate Bill 967 failed to pass by Missouri legislators. These bills would have nullified all ordinances and policies that are breed-specific, including mandatory spay-neuter ordinances in Kansas City and Springfield, Missouri, that have dramatically reduced the shelter population of pit bulls in these two municipalities. The Alliance supported an amendment to allow municipalities to regulate the breeding of dogs. The subject of matter of my artwork is tigers. Tigers are my favorite animal and are also endangered. I want people to feel angry that tigers are endangered and that people mistreat these animals. I hope my artwork inspires people to help save the tigers. I learned that the state of Missouri has a lot of tiger sanctuaries that aren't real tiger sanctuaries.
Hello, my name is Joyce Rothermich, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Zoe. Zoe, in my display, I said that these three puppies that are here are the lucky ones, and the reason I call them the lucky ones is because all of them came from breeders who were reputable, recognized with references, and one of the facts that really was astounding to me was that Missouri really actually leads the country in puppy mills. Because of that, in 2010, a proposition was approved by the voters that would require dog breeders to provide sufficient food and water, veterinarian care, and exercise. The state legislature changed the language and it was pushed through by special agricultural interest groups. Things have improved. We've gone from 3,000 puppy mills to about 1,200, but we still have a long way to go. The Canine Cruelty Prevention Act in 2011 also provided improved standards for care for dogs in commercial breeding facilities. And again, according to the statistics from the Missouri Department of Agriculture, there are 50,000 fewer breeding dogs confined in a lifetime of misery in the puppy mill. And so this is time for us to make some changes.
Did you know? Prior to the Canine Cruelty Prevention Act in 2011, the standards for care for dogs in commercial breeding facilities were largely unregulated. The Alliance played a critical role in the passage of the Canine Cruelty Act, which dramatically improved standards of care for dogs in commercial breeding facilities and enhanced enforcement efforts by the Department of Agriculture and Attorney General's Office, which led to the closure of over 1,200 puppy mills in Missouri. According to statistics from the Missouri Department of Agriculture, there are now 50,000 fewer breeding dogs confined to a lifetime of misery in a puppy mill, and over 300,000 fewer puppies being churned out every year in Missouri mills.